All right, welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here. I'm in the nation's capital where one Democrat today thinks that she should be the judge and jury of the afterlife.
How do you think Judgment Day will work for you with so much blood on your hands?
I'm not going to entertain that question.
Oh, okay, of course not. Do you think you're going to hell, Mr. Lyons?
I'm not going to entertain.
Of course not.
Yeah, that was the same LaMonica McIver who was punching law enforcement officers on video last year. Also, a major breakthrough in the case of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. A new video showing an armed individual caught on the doorbell cam outside Guthrie's home. Now, the suspect appearing to be tampering with the camera in the early hours before Guthrie went missing. And what are Senate Republicans doing? A year into office, and President Trump, he's only had 31 of 93 U.S. attorney positions filled. Why is leader John Thune dragging his feet on this? But first, the names are dropping and the prosecutions better be popping. Let's do this. Look, this is about making sure powerful people have to live by the same rules as everyone else. This Epstein case is bigger than some mysterious wealthy financier who we're told killed himself in prison. This case is about telling the rich and famous and powerful people that they don't get to do whatever they want. That's why I won't let this go. But apparently, Democrats are just like all over this stuff. When Trump is in office, okay? When he wasn't in office, they didn't care. Let me say this. As a victim of sexual abuse as a kid myself, in my experience covering politics right now, the Democrats probably don't give a damn about you ladies, okay? Just remember that when they're standing next to you at a press conference. They're just using you to try to make hay about Donald Trump. And the second this doesn't go the Democrats' way, they're going to dump every one of these victims out with the bathwater. Today, Chuck Schumer holds this press conference with some of the victims to make a statement about the statute of limitations.
Today, I'm introducing Virginia's law, legislation to end statute of limitation barriers that have kept survivors of sexual violence from justice far too long.
I mean, this and oxygen are about the only things I agree with Chuck Schumer on, which, by the way, they wouldn't need to change this law about the statute of limitations if they had, I don't know, prosecuted this under Obama or Biden. Keep in mind, Trump was the one who charged Epstein and Maxwell in 2017. Look, believe me, if I had seen a sliver of evidence that Trump was implicated in any wrongdoing, I would be the first one to call him out. But I haven't seen that, and that's why I haven't. In fact, I have seen the opposite. I keep saying, you know that if Democrats had any evidence whatsoever that Trump did anything wrong, they would have brought it all out in 2016. But they don't. This is all theater. And to prove my point even further, Ro Khanna, Democrat, reviewed the unredacted, and guess who he came out with today? Oh, not Trump.
There were 6 wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. These men are Salvatore Navora, Zorab Mikoladze, Leopig Leonor, Nicola Caputa, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, CEO of Dubai Ports World, and billionaire businessman Leslie Wexner, who was labeled as a co-conspirator by the FBI.
Salvatore Naro, there's no public profile on him. Same with Mike Lattis. Okay, no public information on that guy. Leonid Leonov, we can find almost no public information on this guy. Nicola Caputo, a name shared with a prominent former EU Parliament member from Italy. But the Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, UAE billionaire businessman, chairman and CEO of DP World, a major global ports and logistics company based in Dubai. That's an easy one to track down. How about billionaire businessman Les Wexner? Big-time Democrat donor, founder of big brands, parent company of Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works, one of Ohio's wealthiest men. These names coming out directly contradict congressional testimony claiming that the FBI held no evidence of additional potential co-conspirators. Here's what I don't understand, though. Why were these names redacted in the first place? What? And why did they tell us that there were no names if they were simultaneously redacting those names? Why is the DOJ hiding any people's names. Why are they protecting these people? Like Thomas Massey asking the same question, posting that the Sultan was the one responding to an email in which Epstein claimed to have, quote, loved the torture video. Todd Blanche tried to run a cover saying, oh, the law requires redactions for personally identified information, including an email address. That was today. That's wrong. And the fact that he doesn't even know what the law is an even bigger problem. Community Notes got the Deputy Attorney General today. Got him good. Look, if he reads the Epstein Files Transparency Act, he would know that the redactions only applies to the victims. The Attorney General may, quote, withhold or redact the segregable portions of the records that contain personally identifiable information of victims or victims' personal and medical files and similar files disclosed of what nature which constitute clearly unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. So it's crazy to me. I mean, remember this? Pam Bondi was asked if the DOJ would be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Sitting on my desk right now to review. They weren't there. They had influencers to the White House with binders that said phase 1 and made a whole hay about this, and then there was no phase 2. Then they were told us that there were no files, there were no lists, there were no co-conspirators, and we see there are, and the DOJ redacted them after Congress passed a law that said they had to release this stuff. And the DOJ released not even all of it yet in complete violation of the law. And still, no one's in jail. And I'm including members of the Trump DOJ here that are, in fact, in violation of the Epstein Act. But the other side, and I'm not a victim shaming at all here, but look, this is coming from a place, I am a victim of this stuff. And you know what I had to do? I had to make a statement against my accuser for the prosecution of him. Was it uncomfortable? You bet it was. Done a lot of hard stuff in my life. And it's not really something I wanted to relive, but I did it because I wanted to put the SOB behind bars. I didn't talk about it in other venues or do a commercial or whatever. So why are all these victims? They're out there with people like Chuck Schumer, who's a sleazebag, on a Super Bowl commercial, doing whatever, in the media saying that they were the victims and not naming names. Now, Nancy Mace, who's going to join me in a second, who's been one of the leaders on this charge, which I super appreciate, she said on X, stop victim blaming. If the Epstein victims name names in public, they will be sued by those who, quote, allegedly preyed on them. Trust me on this. Okay. First, then the victims need to stop spouting off about it in public and get the files released. They just should go through the DOJ. They can't scream, next to a Democrat, by the way, that Trump and his admin, they're not doing enough to help you, while they're not helping Trump do it any better. Like, where were they under Biden? That's why I'm so like, this is so political. And respectfully, part to Congresswoman Nancy Mace, the part of them getting sued, I say, let them try. Elon Musk has already volunteered to pay all their legal fees, which Mace acknowledged today, which was fantastic. Sure, one of the big names may try to sue, but they're going to lose. And here's the case law to prove it. The most prevalent one that I can point to, of course, is the Harvey Weinstein case. Weinstein had sex, though, with legal-aged, consenting adults as part of a quid pro quo for career moves, where, not saying it was right, but many parts of that case, the courts held that even those NDAs for what was lawful behavior could not be enforced. Specifically, if they were, according to the court, quote, obtained under duress, coercion, or due to significant power imbalances. Wow, that sounds exactly like an Epstein case to me. Also, let's play this out. Could you imagine if someone sued a victim for violating an NDA put in place because they had sex with that victim while they were underage? I mean, do it. I dare you. You would have a civilian assembled firing squad on every street corner tomorrow for that guy. Tons of other laws, too. Tons of case law that says these NDAs wouldn't hold. Dodd-Frank, you had the SEC versus KBR. Court ruled specifically that NDAs cannot be enforced to cover up illegality. Mackle versus Brown and Root, hush money. An NDA cannot conceal illegality concerning disclosures. This was for a nuclear facility with regards to covering safety standards, but not rape. But when Trump says, like, this is all noise, and it's that he says that it's a waste of time, like, it sounds crass. And it irritates the base, including me. Because we're tired of rich people getting away with everything from rape to tax evasion. So it's even weirder that at every turn that, by the way, Trump is exonerated every single time the Dems are like, oh, we got him. No, wrong again. I don't understand why he's not firing someone at the DOJ for not getting this done. It would make his life so much easier. I don't know what it's going to take for Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche to understand that it's not going away, and this stuff will come out. And the more they try to hide it, they as in the DOJ, the more people like me and other people are going to push. Again, it's like the DOJ is like trying to help the Republicans lose the midterms. This should have been a layup. Prosecute pedos. Find me someone against that. And I tell you what, I'll save a place in the wood chipper for them. Stop trying to make this about semantics, Todd Blanche. Put some people in handcuffs or the gallows for all I care. Because I'm watching journalists do the investigations and the digging that your department's supposed to be doing. Just get it done. We got Nancy Mace standing by. When we get back, don't go anywhere, folks. We got a good one. Coming up, a new poll finding that Americans are underwhelmed with Trump's handling of the economy. Guess where it's from? Oh, NPR, PBS, right. We got the real numbers later on in the show. But first, almost 50,000 kids are home from a school in California as the San Francisco Teachers Union enters day 2 of their strike. This is why our kids are getting dumber. We got that story and more next.
You served your country with honor. Now get the benefits you've rightfully earned. Paul R. Lawrence has written the book every veteran should own, Veterans Benefits for You. This step-by-step guide breaks down what you need to know, from financial compensation and disabilities to information for dependents and parents. This book is a must-read for all servicemen and women. Get your free copy today with our special offer. Call the number on your screen or go online to order.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
Total Beets, America's best-selling Beets brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beets blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beets blood pressure support soft chews today.
I'm a martial artist, a skydiver, a pilot, and all of them require your feet to work. Get up in the morning and it felt like I was standing on marbles on my heel. When I went into the Good Feet store, the fitting was personalized. It was all about me. You put in the arch supports and your day becomes better and the sun shines, the unicorns run by, and you know, it's a good life. I'm Randy and that's my Good Feet story.
See for yourself with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
Well, like I said, we're going to be having Nancy Mace join us in a little while just on this Epstein whole fiasco. But our nation's education system, it's really honestly making our kids dumber. We talked about this yesterday, how Gen Z is dumber than its previous generation for like the first time in history. And here's something that doesn't help. The San Francisco Teachers Union is on strike this week because apparently making $80 grand a year for 184 days of work, not enough money. For the first time in 47 years, San Francisco students are staying home because their teachers are on strike. Those nearly 48,000 students didn't attend class because teachers, educators, and the district are still at odds over raises and health benefits. Almost 50,000 kids home from school because teachers are demanding a 9% salary increase over the next 2 years. Oh, by the way, they want the health care fully funded for their dependents. That's like a $24,000 annual allowance. It's unbelievable. I never want to hear another liberal, especially from California, lecture me again about the importance of our kids. You people shut down schools during COVID, and now these unions are using kids as leverage. LA is up next. Just doesn't stop here, folks. Angela Morabito, spokesman for the Defense of Freedom Institute and former press secretary for the U.S. Department of Education. All right, Angela, this is, I look at teachers who are striking, and I'm like, go back to work. Like, let's get Ronald Reagan be in here to say, like, you're all fired if you don't go back to work.
And they're all preaching the teacher union boss's favorite lie, which is this is for the students. Now, if they really cared about students, they would have higher than 54% reading proficiency. I can't imagine any other profession doing only a little over half of their job and still demanding these huge raises. It is obscene. These teachers need to get back to work. We got to get these students back in school. And most of all, we need to give parents a way out. That comes through school choice, where if your local public school decides not to educate your child, either because it does a terrible job or it's not even open, you should be allowed to take your kids' education dollars elsewhere. That is what President Trump is working toward and what the federal K-12 scholarship tax credit will create in the next year.
Well, and that's the other thing, too, is here's my problem with teachers. I generally don't like unions in general because I think they've long passed their due in use in society. They make everything more expensive. However, teachers' unions specifically, because the teachers' union's job has nothing to do with the children. It's how can I get teachers paid more? And they literally hold entire cities hostage by using the kids to try to get higher wages. But never have I ever heard a teacher's union, never Randy Weingarten has come out and be like, you know what, I'm going to forgo my whatever, close to $1 million compensation total package so we can get kids better textbooks.
Nope, because it's never been about the kids. These unions are all about their own political gain. That's why they spend millions more every year on lobbying than they do on representing their own teacher members. Look, I could sit here and name for you a dozen teachers who changed my life because they were incredible at what they do. I would hope that's the story for a lot of Americans. But you know who stands in the way of those teachers actually being valued? Are the unions. They're the ones who insist on a pay band system and making it impossible to fire underperformers. If we want to treat teachers like the professionals they are, you got to look at them individually and not say, oh, well, we'll pay you the big bucks just because you've been in the classroom for 30 years. Maybe not a lot has been accomplished in those 30 years, but the unions don't care, and they insist on a structure that rewards the worst performers and holds back the best of the best.
Chicago is a perfect example of this. I mean, Chicago is a complete disaster. It's like, you know, political agendas everywhere. And, you know, during COVID, teachers union fought to keep schools closed specifically in Chicago and prioritize these political agendas, you know, masks on kids. 5 years later, literally nothing has changed. In Chicago, less than 22% of voters approve of the Chicago's teacher union. And yet, here they are. No cuts to them.
I would like to ask anyone in that 22%, what are you thinking? I think that's even too high of a number. Look at what the Chicago Teacher Union has accomplished. There are schools right now in the city of Chicago that are more than 90% empty. These are failing schools that everybody who can get out has gotten out. But yet the union won't close them down. They were actually, in their last round of contract negotiations, insisting on a school that would have more adult staff than kids there trying to learn. It's ridiculous what these people do. And to me, the clearest sign of their hypocrisy is that their outgoing union boss there, Stacey Davis Gates, who's now going to be heading up the state union, she sends her own son to a private school. So choice for me, but not for thee.
Yeah, exactly. A perfect example of these teachers' unions and stuff like this. You got Deja Baker, a school board member in Pennsylvania, begging for money so she can go to Cuba to learn progressive ways to address LGBTQ. Real quick, Angela, why should we donate money for this thing to go to Cuba and then teach our students about communism?
Deja, if you're watching, I will help you pack on the condition that you don't come back and indoctrinate our kids. There's no reason for this. We've got too much woke in our schools. And she has to go to a communist country to get more? Makes no sense.
Yeah, none. Angela Morabito, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, our CBS News out with another misleading poll on the Trump administration's work deporting criminal illegal aliens. We got the details that they don't want you to know, and tons more on Culture Clash next.
You know, I think the biggest selling point for Newsmax is we're not doing the same boring, predictable news. You flip through the other channels, you got these high-paid hosts. They say the same thing every night. You know what they're going to say. It's a little different.
Your Florida life is calling, and we have the answer. Valencia in Florida by GL Homes. Premium 55-plus living in 5 prime Florida locations. Gorgeous new homes from the mid-300s to $2.5 million. World-class resort-style living 24/7. Huge clubhouses, on-site dining, pickleball, and more. Effortless, low-maintenance living. Valencia, your Florida life is calling. Experience more at valenciaflorida.com.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
If you can go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Actually, I'm going to Thailand in a couple months.
But do you have your passport and pre-check ready?
I've been putting that off. I heard it's such a pain.
You clearly haven't heard of GovPlus.com.
GovPlus? What's that?
They have completely automated the process of applying for your passport, pre-check, birth certificate, and much more. Here, let me show you how it works. So when you go to GovPlus.com, you fill out their secure online form, which only takes minutes. That then applies your information to all your other documents on GovPlus. You can track your documents here, too. Applications are all online.
Thank you for my passport and pre-check for my trip.
Safe travels.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Thuma.
Be My Valentine. Diamond hearts just $79. Half-carat diamond hearts $199. 2-carat UNI pendants $899. 5-carat tennis bracelets $899. 1-carat natural studs $349. All guaranteed to appraise for double. The jewelry exchange direct.
Super Beats by Human just got an upgrade. Introducing our bold new packaging. Same science, same trusted results. Founded in partnership with the University of Texas. This is modern cardiovascular support. Only human.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at GetTrumpWatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
The sound of an American original. It's the Omaha Steaks President's Day event, and we're celebrating with our President's Day assortment, all for just $99.99. Save 50% site-wide and get free burgers when you visit omahasteaks.com/TV today.
When curiosity strikes about the everyday lives of your family, we're here with answers only your ancestors can provide. See their stories at Ancestry.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought CBS News was like trying to unwoke themselves. Not after this article. CBS writing, less than 14% of those arrested by ICE in Trump's first year back in office had violent criminal records, this document shows. Then they go on to say that out of the 400,000 illegals arrested by ICE, less than 14% had charges or convictions for violent criminal offenses. But who here would like to know why? According to DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, quote, drug trafficking, distribution of child pornography, burglary, fraud, DUI, embezzlement, solicitation of a minor, human smuggling are all categorized as non-violent crimes. Like we said, 70% of those illegal aliens arrested under Trump and Noam have pending criminal charges or prior convictions. Bet the left-wing media probably left that part out for a reason. Kay Smythe, Newsmax contributor Tony Katz, host of Tony Katz Today. Kay, you still have not had this baby. You're like 4 weeks overdue.
I know. I am. But you know what?
just listening to that tweet and the fact that all of those crimes are considered nonviolent, I'm so angry that I think it's actually going to help move this early labor into legitimate labor. Like, what are we doing, Carl, when drug trafficking, child pornography, burglary, I mean, solicitation of human trafficking, how are those DUI, how are those non-violent? Like, those words don't even make sense. It's all liberal rubbish, and I'm sick of hearing it. So, yeah.
Oh. Me as well. Tony, here's the other one, too, speaking of how stupid. Take a listen to Jasmine Crockett. Talks about herself in this Vox interview. Roll this.
I've always been someone who has been intellectual. I was top 10% of my class at Texas Southern, my first year in law school. I was always very much kind of digging in and wanted to understand. I was always the person that would bring the receipts and wouldn't back down. So, you know,
you're always clapping back too?
I was always, yeah, there was always a pushback. If I feel like I am right on something, I've always been very clear about that.
So she always talks back, Tony. I'm going to go ahead and say she's not like going to be the next Copernicus.
The top 10% of her class in her freshman year. That's a very, very specific way to engage that conversation. And there's nothing more anti-intellectual than claiming that you're the intellectual. You let others make that decision based on your efforts, based on your achievements, based on your presentations, based on your skill set. It's like giving yourself a nickname. You can't give yourself a nickname. It is bestowed upon you out of love or respect. This is as perfectly Jasmine Crockett. Every time I share her conversations on my show, I refer to it as Jasmine Crockett Masterpiece Theater, because everything she says, just chef's kiss.
I know it is. I actually want to put her on a platform to campaign against, because it's actually really good. Speaking of intellectuals, this woman from Maryland, Kay, squatting and living in a home, a $2.3 million home. She was arrested and then released from jail after only 12 days on a $5,000 bail, and then returned to the same mansion. But take a listen to her attorney when asked how she got into the house. Roll this.
Get out my face.
How did your client, Ms. Tamika Good, get inside a $2.3 million property?
Cut. I don't know if I can answer that. Allegedly. Can I cut? Well, Ms. Good did her research. She found out that a certain property was under the control of a certain group.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and roll the dice here, Kay, and say that he might have graduated below Jasmine Crockett.
Maybe just a little bit, just a teeny tiny little skosh. Oh, that made my teeth itch. I mean, that's not even lawyering. That's not even good lying, which is basically just good lawyering. Oh my goodness. So she broke in, so B&E, to get into this house after doing calculated research to find out that it was empty.
Premeditated.
So he basically, premeditated. So he just put his client in jail, almost definitely. If Maryland has any justice, that's what's going to happen next. Allegedly, you know, that she did all of this, allegedly. Even though he just said that she did. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's crazy. Wow. Tony, when I tell you, though, they'll find any reason to go out. Like, these are the same people who are going after Trump. And this is what I mean. The Trump's Religious Liberty Commission is now being sued for being too Christian. Two multi-faith groups have sued the Trump administration on Monday, alleging the White House Religious Liberty Commission violates the First Amendment. The First Amendment just says, shall make no law.
Right, establishing religion. This is a commission, and he can have on the commission who he wants. And at the last meeting, there was plenty of pushback and attacks on Israel and a whole host of things going on. I think the fundamental here is whether or not we want to say that there is a religious concept in our founding. The idea of the practice or the establishment of no religion is very different than whether or not there is an establishment conversation to be had. Established religion versus things that were used to establish the nation. And to say that you can't have that conversation, I would consider awkward at best.
Yeah. Yeah, no. Kay, Tony, we appreciate it very much.
And have that
All right,
baby,
going
Kay,
back to our
because Carl wants to win the office pool.
Yeah, exactly. I'm way past it. I'm way over it. All right. I got to get back to our top story tonight that we opened up with, the Epstein files and holding abusers accountable. But why are we only learning about this now? For years, Democrats have just completely ignored this story. I just want to take a step back and look at this timeline. 2005, Trump bans Epstein from all properties for hitting on an underage girl. 2006, Trump calls the police chief about Epstein and describes Maxwell as, quote, evil, and Epstein arrested in Florida. 2008, Epstein convicted on minimal charges. Weird sweetheart deal, 18-month sentence from a Bush-appointed judge and let off the hook by Clinton-allied FBI. 2008 to 2016, Obama and Democrats did nothing about Epstein. 2017, less than 3 weeks after inauguration, Trump signs EO 13773, targeting transnational criminal organizations and preventing criminal trafficking. And then 2019, Trump's DOJ arrests Epstein, seizes his island, throws him in jail for crimes against children. And then 2020, obviously, Trump's DOJ arrests Maxwell, throws her in jail for crimes against children. 2021 to 24, Democrats under Biden, absolute nothing and crickets. So, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, all right, Congressman, it's pretty clear that the Dems are just playing a political stunt here, but Trump gets vindicated at every corner.
Every corner, even by Epstein's own victims as well. They've been very public about that. And look, it was under President Trump where every single member of Congress, regardless of their political affiliation, can go to the DOJ and look at the documents themselves. We've done that while he's been president as well.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is, too, why is the DOJ hiding this stuff? This is what I'm really PO'd about here. The DOJ is redacting stuff that shouldn't be redacted. It doesn't seem like Todd Blanche actually has read the law, because he was redacting people that is not protected under the law that you passed.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I just stepped out of the DOJ. I will be back tomorrow. My biggest disappointment tonight reviewing the documents is that the documents that were most redacted or that we couldn't find or couldn't pull up were the ones that were related to potential co-conspirators, to include internal memos by the very own DOJ. So, I mean, this has been going on for decades and for years now. And that information should be readily available, but it wasn't tonight. It was very frustrating for me.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. Now, you know, obviously if someone's name appears, and it doesn't necessarily mean they did something illegal, they may have been associated in some way, and it might not have been illegal. Howard Lutnick, guy I have on my show, I happen to think he's done a great job in his position in the Trump administration, but he went to Epstein Island. So, I mean, roll this real quick.
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island.
Cause for concern or blown up?
Well, I mean, as a mom, I wouldn't have my children around a convicted pedophile. We'll start there. But number 2, even in the emails, Howard Lutnick and his wife were copied on messages with Jeffrey Epstein and his staff, allegedly, that was in there. And there seems nothing to be untoward or nefarious in any way, shape, or form either. Just because someone's name is in there doesn't mean that. I think Ron DeSantis' name is in there. Somebody anonymously emailed the FBI about me a few months ago. So there is some real conspiracy theories in there. Some of them are absolutely not real. But what I'm most concerned about are the rich and famous, the powerful, who potentially were involved, who did have intimate relations with underage girls, and why those individuals haven't gone to jail. So what you're going to see is my next step in the very, very, very close term, hopefully tomorrow, is I'm going to request a list of names come in to testify before the House Oversight Committee. I have questions of more individuals after seeing these documents. I'm not stating that they did anything. I just believe they might have information that'll be helpful to the outcome of an investigation in the Epstein files.
You know, Congressman, I got just a few seconds left here, but given what we've seen out of the DOJ and not really handling this well, do you have faith if you referred criminal charges for anybody that you call in front of you that you believe might have actually committed serious crimes here? Do you believe they would prosecute them?
No, I don't have any faith that that will happen. In fact, I met with the family of Virginia Guffrey Roberts today, and I told them straight up, you're never going to see charges. But what we can see is a difference in federal law, state law. In my home state of South Carolina, let's say, for example, you film an underage kid or a woman, even if they're being assaulted, it's up to a $500 fine. And the victims of Epstein that I have met with, including some today and weeks ago, they want to make a real difference legislatively, in fines, in crimes, in civil torts, criminal rights of action, et cetera, so that the next victim that comes by might have a chance at getting justice.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, appreciate you staying on this one.
Thank you.
All right, coming up. President Trump still beating inflation, yet American people are still leery about the economy, according to one poll. We're going to shoot down the left's narrative on this one next.
Power of disease. 15 million dogs and counting know. Simparica Trio offers triple protection against heartworm disease, ticks and fleas, and intestinal worms, all with one monthly chew. This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
Prevagen, official sponsor of U.S. figure skating. Karan trusts Prevagen for her brain, and this is her story.
My name is Karan, and I'm from Brooklyn. I work for the city of New York as a police administrator. I oversee approximately 20 people. I did research, and I decided to give Prevagen a try. I felt amazing. I've been taking Prevagen for 4 years now. I feel confident. It's a life changer.
Prevagen, for your brain.
Whoa, 90% off? I have to purchase now. My phone!
That was a scam link.
Try this one. We installed PCmatic.
PCmatic blocked ransomware before threats can strike.
It's 100% made in America security.
Trusted by homes, businesses, governments, and now you. Stop guessing.
Start blocking.
Get PCmatic.
Let's face it, folks. Car repair costs are not going down anytime soon. In fact, they're only getting worse. Protect your hard-earned dollars with a money-saving plan for your out-of-warranty vehicle with one call to CarShield. Plans offer protections on big items like your car's transmission, engine, AC, and thousands of parts and systems. Call now. Waiting could cost you thousands.
Call CarShield now for your free quote and to lock in your rate with their price lock guarantee. Call 800-213-0458.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Color me shocked here on this one. A new poll finds the American people are underwhelmed by President Trump's handling of the economy. Really? Why? Oh, that's why. It's a NPR PBS Marist poll finding that only 36% in their poll approve of Trump's economy, whereas 59% apparently disapprove. That's 59% must love, I don't know, inflation or something. U.S. Consumer Price Index is now under 1%. Core CPI is just barely over 1%. Personal consumption expenditures are up like 1.25%. The core PCE, all of inflation is averaging like 1% tops. That's why Trump always takes credit on the economy.
I'm very proud of it, 5.6%. You know, we have a GDP of 5.6 despite a shutdown. $18 trillion is being invested in our country as we speak. And there are factories and plants and thousands of businesses being built all over the country.
E.J. Antoni, chief economist with the Heritage Foundation, and Seth Denson's business and market analyst. Seth, are we just, as Republicans, just messaging this wrong? Is that what it is? Because the economy is better than it has been in 40 years.
Well, I think there's two things. First of all, let's start with the fact that 40% of Americans would be dissatisfied with Trump's handling of the economy if they turned on their faucet and liquid gold started pouring out. But that being said, I oftentimes will say that happiness is found at the intersection of reality and expectation. And unfortunately, what I think is there is an expectation that when the president would come in, that he was just going to immediately turn things around and everything would be fantastic. By the way, things are getting so much better than they were. The economy is showing that. Those numbers you just showed are proving that out. But these things take time to get to Main Street and to get to everyday Americans. But I'll tell you, this president's on the right track.
Yeah, well, EJ, the other thing, too, is, and this is something that people don't see every day, but huge growth in freight. Now, Craig Fuller, who tracks the freight economy point, he actually rolled out where this freight is coming from and where it's going to. Roll this.
Currently, truckload volumes on a year-over-year basis are up 8%. That is actually quite significant. What is even more interesting is it's not what you would expect it to be. Imports are actually not really participating in this volume surge. It's happening in the Rust Belt, the traditional industrial Midwest, which is really focused on auto and heavy machinery, is where we're seeing it. We're not seeing it at the ports.
EJ, they told us that manufacturing was dead and never coming back, but it's the blue-collar towns that were left behind by the Democrats' economy under Biden that are surging because of this shipping stuff.
Well, Carl, you just hit the nail on the head there. Blue collar. This is a blue collar boom. Where we're seeing softness in the labor market right now is principally among white collar workers, not blue collar workers. It's technologies, these disruptive technologies like AI that are replacing a lot of entry level jobs in the white collar workforce in the exact same way, Carl, that factory automation reduced a lot of entry level jobs in the blue collar workforce. Well, now the shoe's on the other foot. And look, we're going to see efficiency gains. We're already seeing the productivity gains, and we're going to continue to see strong growth numbers because of this. But all in all, this is a very good thing. The economy is definitely moving in the right direction. But if I may, real quick, getting back to what you were saying earlier, why is it that with such low inflation numbers, people still don't feel great about the economy? It's because prices are still high. And you're right, it's going to take a while to fix this. It took Biden 4 years to mess it up. It's going to take Trump 4 years to fix it. And so it's going to take some time before people's earnings growth catches up to what we've seen from inflation over the last several years. Again, we're heading in the right direction. We're getting there, but it is going to take some time.
And a fake pandemic, too. Screwed it all up. All right, EJ Antoni, Seth Denson. Unfortunately, we're out of time. We're going to leave it right there. Appreciate it, guys. All right, earlier today, Newsmax CEO, our own Chris Ruddy, was on Capitol Hill explaining that a merger between two huge TV stations, and these groups, it's huge negative implications for the public by concentrating media ownership in the hands of a single liberal company.
They all use and wield the leverage of their broadcast stations to get high fees for their cable channels. I'm an independent media company. I don't have the leverage that these broadcast companies. So one of the reasons we had the cap was to reduce the leverage so that they couldn't overpower the cable operators.
This is the issue. Really, it's really important to our viewers, you at home, millions of conservatives around the country. FCC Commissioner Brandon Carr plans to lift what's known as the ownership caps on TV industry. This means that the major networks will be able to basically just own most of the stations and outcompete us. It's like, having almost a borderline monopoly on this for negotiation. This was never the point of the agenda for the Trump administration. In fact, Trump even opposed this at one point. This is an agenda item for like the big media and the Washington swamp. I don't know where it's coming from, but Carr also wants to grant media giant Nexstar a waiver so it can merge with Tenga. These are huge companies. To become the largest TV group in the nation, it would have massive bargaining power with that guy you see on screen there. Newsmax, obviously, and other conservative groups like us, CPAC and OAN, and we oppose the FCC's actions. We encourage you to call your congressmen and senators and tell them that you oppose lifting the caps and ownerships, and you can oppose big media consolidation. Just call the number on the screen right there. Let them know that you plan to oppose the FCC. We'd appreciate it very much, folks. All right, coming up, big government overreach alert. Radical Dems unleashing yet another blatant assault on your Second Amendment rights, aiming to cripple law-abiding gun owners. 2-8 Tuesday, next.
Not again.
Your cold is coming! Your cold is coming!
Thanks, Revere.
We really need to keep Zycam in the house.
Only if you want to shorten your cold. When you feel a cold coming, shorten it with Zycam.
This is a story about the one. The one who looks to Granger to make sparks fly. Getting it done right is a craft. It takes experience, the right material, and the right partner like Granger, with a wide range of professional-grade products. For the one, working hard means others can play even harder. Call, click Granger.com, or stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Some wireless companies say that they stand for something. What exactly do they stand for, and why won't they say it out loud? Let me tell you what Patriot Mobile stands for. They stand for the lives of the unborn. They stand for the Second Amendment and the right to protect yourself and your family. They stand for our veterans and first responders who sacrifice so much for our freedom. Make the switch to Patriot Mobile today and support a company that doesn't just say they stand for something, but one that stands for the things that matter the most.
Why go on Roe? Because 1 in 4 guys.
1 in 4 guys.
1 in 4 guys experience ED. On Roe, ED feels like no big deal. Connect with a provider to find treatment that could be right for you. 100% online.
Roe designed or curated treatments to make ED feel less stressful. There are options to fit every need, like fast-acting dissolvables or daily gummies. If 1 in 4 guys deal with ED,
then 1 in 4 guys should go on Roe.
Guys, connect with a provider at roe.co to see if you qualify.
I was tired of being exhausted at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and constantly suffering from brain fog.
Toxic EMF radiation is coming from your cell phone and smart devices and being absorbed by your body.
We don't see EMFs. It's out of sight, out of mind.
That's why people around the world are choosing Bodywell. Bodywell's technology holds a harmonic pattern that helps your body respond better to EMF exposure, reducing EMF radiation absorption up to 80%. Just peel, stick, and protect.
This little device changed everything.
Bodywell's BioCard protects your entire body. Simply place it in your pocket.
I didn't believe in EMF protection until I actually felt the difference.
I sleep much better, more like a baby.
I mean, my kids are my world, and I want to do everything I can to protect them and give them a better life.
Order your BioCard today, and for a limited time, get a BioChip, a $99 value for free. Go to bodywell.com. That's bodywell.com.
The first day back from maternity leave is so weird. We get it. Find a caregiver who does too. When it's not you, it's care.com.
All right, it's 2-8 Tuesday, so let's do some gun stuff. While you're out there defending your family, your rights, your freedom, Washington Democrats just dropped this another huge bomb on the Second Amendment. The so-called Stop Online Ammunition Sales Act of 2026, aiming to ban you and me, which is where I buy most of my ammo, online, which is why Democrats are terrible at this also. This would force every purchase to be a face-to-face purchase like it's 1950 before the internet. It also slaps new licenses on dealers and reports to the feds if you buy more than 1,000 rounds in a week. Oops, done that regularly. Because God forbid law-abiding Americans stock up for some fun training or hunting or self-defense, whatever. So after the same Democrats just told us that IDs and licenses are racist, they're going to make you go do that. This isn't about stopping criminals. Criminals don't shop for ammo on like cheaperthandirt.com or anything. This is about stopping people like you and me from enjoying our constitutionally protected right. Okay, host of the Bearing Arms podcast, Cam Edwards, and Second Amendment columnist at Breitbart News, AWR Hawkins. Cam, you're in Virginia, man. You guys you're getting shellacked right now with all kinds of stuff. Then the feds throw this one at you?
Yeah, I mean, this is another attempt to, turn the United States into California, right? California already has a law like this, making it a crime to purchase ammunition online, actually making it a crime to purchase ammunition out of state and then bring it back into California. A law, by the way, which has been challenged in court. We've actually got some lower court wins. So, Democrats, I mean, listen, their contempt for our right to keep and bear arms knows no bounds, and we're seeing this on full display in Congress right now.
Yeah, AWR, I actually fundamentally hate the ATF and think it should be abolished, along with the Fed and a couple other things. But take a look at this. They denied a Gun Owners of America member. They denied his form to get a suppressor because he put on there, when they asked for a reason, he put on there to exercise my God-given right. And they said that was insufficient to approve his right for a suppressor.
Right. I mean, well, it doesn't shock me. You still have a little bleed over in the ATF. I do expect it to be cleaned up. I've talked to who I think will be the incoming director. He and I get along really well, and I really think he's going to be a strong change. But until he gets in there, you still got this. It's kind of just a drift. And under Biden, it was amazing how weaponized this agency was, like all other federal agencies under Biden. So I'm not shocked by it at all. And if I'd had my druthers, ATF and so many other agencies would just be eliminated. That's what I would like.
Yeah, I don't know what they actually do other than regulate fun. Here's some more proof of gun control not working, Cam. California, which has more gun control than any state, they had 7 people shot, 2 of them fatally over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we see this, unfortunately, in gun-controlled states all the time, right? Not just California, but New York, Massachusetts. No state is crime-free. And in fact, states like Massachusetts, the worst gun laws in New England, the highest violent crime rate in New England. So it doesn't surprise me at all that criminals are avoiding the 10-day waiting period, the universal background checks, the ban on so-called assault weapons, large-capacity magazines, everything else that's on the books in California. Because criminals don't obey the law, Carl. Again, we should know this by now. Democrats know this by now. It's not about fighting crime. It's about fighting the exercise of a fundamental civil right.
Oh, no, 100%. And AWR, the same thing. Kentucky's stand your ground law. That's a thing in that state. This home intruder found out the hard way, shot and killed Friday after breaking into a central Kentucky home. And I'm like, this is what it's about. This is why we have this.
Right. And do you notice, and I covered that story at Breitbart, that story ends by saying no charges filed. They're not going to file charges. The stand your ground law, the Castle Doctrine, one day these folks will catch on, and those who don't catch on will end up in body bags. Either way, I'm happy because another home intrusion is stopped.
Yeah, and look, as the victim of a home intrusion before, I stand behind most of these people who have to defend their home. I think it's that's the scariest thing in the world, to have to defend your own family. So, Cam, AWR, we appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, before we go, the tax code. Folks, my favorite thing to rail against, you're going to love this story, but triumph on the field is not a triumph in the tax bracket. Let's go next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. I mean, that decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
People always ask, why Patriot Gold Group? With over 10,000 clients to date and over $1 billion in transactions, not a single complaint on the Better Business Bureau. Consumer Affairs top rated for 9 years in a row. Over 2,000 5-star reviews. The only company nationwide where you, the client, work directly with an owner. Home of the no fee for life IRA. Gold is up 80% in the last 28 months, 275% since Lehman Brothers collapsed. We are patriots protecting Patriots. Give Patriot Gold Group a call at 888-528-4290 before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold and silver dealer 9 years in a row. Call now, 888-528-4290.
So, here is a before of my stomach before Sono Bello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sono Bello.
I wanted the results of the tummy tuck, but not the downtime.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform.
Do you want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today. Call or go to sonobello.com right now.
Let's face it, folks, car repair costs are not going down anytime soon. In fact, they may be only getting worse. Protect your hard-earned dollars with a money-saving plan for your out-of-warranty vehicle with one call to CarShield. Plans offer protection on big items like your car's engine, transmission, AC, and thousands of parts and systems. Call now. Waiting could cost you thousands.
Get your free quote and lock in your rate now. Call 800-258-7591.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, Mac.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
48% of Americans don't get enough magnesium, which is vital for bone, nerve, and muscle health. I recommend Cunol's Magnesium Glycinate. It's formulated for high absorption and is gentle on the stomach. Cunol, the brand I trust.
You know, WeatherTech isn't just for new cars. No matter how old or new your car is, it deserves WeatherTech. With laser measured protection for practically every car on the road, we've got you covered. Because messes don't care what year your car is. Whatever you're driving, we got it. We got it. We got it. Got it. We got it. We got it. We've got it. Oh, we got it. No matter what year your vehicle is, it deserves WeatherTech. Order your American-made protection today at WT.com. We're WeatherTech. You know we got it.
Muscle cramps were keeping me up at night, so then I tried Slomag, the magnesium plus calcium supplement that helps relax tense muscles so I can rest comfortably. And Slomag tablets have a slow-release formula that's gentle on my stomach. That's why I use Slomag.
Well, it's no secret that California's taxes are pretty obscene, but imagine being Super Bowl winning quarterback Sam Darnold, who, like all winning players, gets the $178,000 Super Bowl winning bonus. This is on top of his $33.5 million annual salary. You might think, though, like, oh, great, I got $178,000 to burn, celebrate, big victory. No. Thanks to some stupid California jock tax, Darnold actually lost $71,000 for competing in the Super Bowl due to a $250,000 tax levied by California. Like, this is insane. I'm sure Gavin Newsom's just going to take that, put it right towards his high-speed rail. Maybe it'll disappear into thin air. Maybe they'll give it to some meth heads. I mean, who knows? It's California. These people will do anything. There is a tax because he spent 7 days in the state. There's a tax on his whole salary retroactively based on his entire salary to those 7 days. Ends up, he loses $75,000 for playing in the Super Bowl in California. It's all ridiculous. Anyway, folks, that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Stick around. Rob Schmidt coming up next.